At ease, class. I'm Professor 117. You can call me Master Chief, or Chief. I'm not really picky when it comes to titles. Today we're going to be talking about Halo. Plural. Now some of you may be under the impression that when a person dies, if they were really good, they go to heaven, become an angel, earn their wings, and are given a nice shiny halo. Whether you pick this up from a Renaissance painting or old episodes of Dragon Ball Z, as a resident professor of all things Halo related here at Superhero Seminary, let me go ahead and say up front that this has absolutely no basis whatsoever in either the Bible or actual Christian tradition. It is 100% theologically inaccurate, and it's my job as reclaimer of biblical truth to set the record straight. So what does the Bible actually teach? Well, for starters, humans and angels are two entirely separate classes of being in both Old and New Testament. Now it's true that the Hebrew and Greek words for angel, malach, and angelos, respectively, have no inherent supernatural connotation. Both terms simply mean messenger. The only way to tell whether a specific malach, angelos, in a passage of scripture is human or divine is by context. But in English, the term angel eventually came to refer exclusively to supernatural beings who serve God. As the Dictionary of Demons and Deities puts it, it is only in later texts in the Old Testament and everywhere in Apocryphal and New Testament texts that the words malach and angelos become generic terms for any of God's supernatural assistants, whether they functioned as messengers or not. When English borrowed the term angel from Greek, it was not in its earlier sense of messenger, but in its later sense of any supernatural being under God's authority. But despite the English usage, in the Old Testament, angels were often initially mistaken for people. Only after something bizarre or inexplicable happened did the person realize they were dealing with someone supernatural. You can see this in the story of Abraham and the three angelic visitors in Genesis 18 and 19, for example. That story's wild. There are other times when obviously supernatural beings are encountered, like the cherubim in Ezekiel or the seraphim in Isaiah, but they're not called angels. And instead of looking human, they resemble various hybrid animal creatures. In fact, it's safe to say the angels in the Bible that look like normal people never have wings. And the angels that do have wings never look like normal people. There's a lot more that could be said about all the angelic beings in the Bible and the extra biblical speculation that multiplied within various Jewish traditions during the intertestamental period. But for today's session, I just want to make two things clear. Number one, none of the actual angels in the Bible are people who died and went to heaven. Number two, no one, human or angelic, ever receives a halo. The first falsehood likely comes from people taking Jesus' analogy in Luke 20 about the nature of life and the resurrection as a literal description. In this passage, Jesus was given a hypothetical scenario by members of the Sadducee faction, a sect within first century Judaism that believed there was no life after this one. In answering them, Jesus affirmed that the resurrection will not just be a return to the way things are in this life. Rather, it will be a categorically different form of bodily existence from what we currently experience. Look, right here in Luke 20, 34 through 36. And Jesus said to them, "The sons of this age marry and are given in marriage. But those who are considered worthy to attain that age and to the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. For they are not even able to die any longer, because they are like the angels and are sons of God, because they are sons of the resurrection." Now notice that Jesus never says people become angels. Rather, he says, when it comes to marriage and mortality, God's resurrected people will be like angels. Both the act of getting married and the act of dying will no longer occur in that final resurrected state that the prophets looked forward to. I'll let you wrestle with the theological and anthropological implications of Jesus' words on your own, as they definitely push the bounds of what we are capable of imagining in this life. But the simple truth is, class, that neither Jesus nor anyone else in Scripture ever teaches that people become angels when they die. In fact, the New Testament is emphatic in declaring that humans are destined for something that exceeds even what angels experience now. Look at Hebrews 1:14. Are they not all spirits engaged in special service, sent on assignment for the sake of those who are going to inherit salvation? Those who are going to inherit salvation, that's us, humans. Those who are spirits engaged in service, that's the angels. Or look at what Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 3. Do you not know that we will judge angels? Not to mention ordinary matters? Paul's telling the Corinthians they should be capable of settling disputes among themselves, because in the resurrection, they're going to be judging even over the angels. While we can only speculate what such judging will entail, it is a basic truth of the Bible that the only beings in all creation said to bear the imago Dei, the image of God, are human beings, not angels, not cherubim, not seraphim, not anything in the animal world. Humans and humans alone have this distinction in the Bible. So as hard as it is to imagine, according to Scripture, becoming an angel when you die would actually be a demotion in status than what God has planned at the resurrection for all who bear his image. So to reiterate point number 1, no one becomes an angel when they die. As for point number 2, no one, human or angel, ever earns their halo, or wings for that matter. I know this goes against practically everything you've ever been taught in art, books, movies, and TV, but it's true. The floating rings that we now call halos began as an attempt by ancient artists to somehow visually communicate, quote, the lustrous countenance and apparel of awesome otherworldly beauty, as the New Bible Dictionary puts it, described in certain key biblical moments, such as Moses' radiant face after being in God's presence, the angels who appeared to the shepherds in Bethlehem, or even the face of Stephen at his trial. Early Christian artists would depict various angelic or holy individuals with a solid disc behind them that was supposed to symbolize this divine radiance. Why did they choose a disc? Well, probably because painting glowing light is really hard. I mean, this was before such artistic concepts as perspective and foreshortening had even been discovered, so cut them some slack. They did the best they could. Gradually, these flat golden discs started to be depicted as hollow rings, and eventually, they were detached and moved from directly behind the subject's face to floating above their head. Because they had been a part of Christian art for centuries, and because most people simply don't read or study the Bible in much detail, the halo came to be associated with holy individuals. And since it was also associated with angels, the folk theology notion that saints become angels when they die gradually arose. As for how the overwhelmingly terrifying sphinx-like creatures known as cherubim ended up being depicted as fat, naked baby archers with wings, honestly, I'm still trying to figure that one out. It makes even less sense than halos. But when it comes to what the Bible actually depicts, people becoming angels and earning their halo is in the same category as things like heaven being made out of clouds, St. Peter being the heavenly bouncer, Satan carrying a pitchfork and being red and having a tail and hooves, or that Satan once was a heavenly choir director named Lucifer. For that last one, see the Superhero Seminary session by my colleague Professor Murdoch. All of these are folk theology concepts that neither the Bible nor Orthodox Christian theology actually teach. I hope this helps in your theological training. We'll see you next time, back here at Superhero Seminary. Dismissed. If you enjoyed this session and found it helpful, go ahead and click the subscribe button. And if you liked it, click like. And if you really liked it, go tell someone else about Superhero Seminary and send them a link to this playlist. The best way to help get the word out is through word of mouth. I'm Professor 117. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time, back here in Superhero Seminary.